Good morning, America. On the 12th of May, 2026, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko announced selective mobilization and raised combat readiness of all armed forces immediately after an emergency meeting with Defense Minister Viktor Krenin. At the same time, Russia is rushing more S-400 missile systems and advanced Su-30SM-2 fighter jets into Belarus. Just days earlier, on Victory Day, Putin publicly claimed the war in Ukraine is nearing its end. Peace talk or trap? This is classic Russian masquerovka, talking peace while preparing for escalation on NATO's entire eastern flank. Millions of civilians in Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltic states are once again living under the shadow of war. Tell me in the comments, do you think this is a real threat or just another bluff? While the world focuses on the dramatic events in the Strait of Hormuz, a dangerous new front is quietly opening on NATO's eastern flank. On the 12th of May 2026, just hours after his meeting with Defense Minister Viktor Krenin, President Alexander Lukashenko announced the formation of a new elite special operations brigade based near the Ukrainian border. This unit, composed of 4,200 highly trained personnel, is being equipped with Russian-supplied weapons and is already conducting intensive drills. At the same time, Belarusian forces have accelerated construction of new roads, trenches, ammunition depots, and logistics hubs within 25 kilometers of the Ukrainian border. Satellite imagery from May 15th shows over 47 kilometers of new fortified lines and 12 new supply bases being built at record speed. Russia is directly supporting this buildup. Elements of the Russian VDV, airborne forces, and Spetsnaz units have been redeployed to Belarusian territory, with at least 3,800 Russian troops currently operating from Belarusian bases. Advanced S-400 air defense systems and Su-30SM-2 fighter jets continue to arrive from Russia, significantly enhancing Belarusian capabilities. This is not random posturing. It is a calculated Russian strategy using Belarus as a forward pressure point. By threatening the northern border, Moscow hopes to force Ukraine to divert troops, artillery, and air defense systems away from the critical Donetsk and Zaporizhia fronts. At the same time, the buildup tests NATO's reaction time along the vulnerable Suwalki corridor and the Baltic states. Putin's messaging has been deliberately contradictory. On Victory Day, May 9th, he publicly claimed the conflict in Ukraine is nearing its end and hinted at possible peace talks. Yet, behind the scenes, he continues to pour military resources into Belarus to keep the pressure high. This classic maskirovka, Russian military deception, aims to create confusion, talking peace while preparing for potential escalation. Belarus is being turned into a launchpad, a staging ground, and a psychological weapon all at once. But behind these cold military calculations lies a painful human reality. Belarusian society, already exhausted by political repression and economic hardship since the 2020 protests, is now being dragged deeper into a conflict not of its own choosing. Young Belarusian men face the growing risk of being sent to the front lines as cannon fodder in a war orchestrated from Moscow. Families in border towns live in constant anxiety, wondering if their villages will become the next battlefield. The people of Belarus did not ask for this, yet once again, they are being forced to pay the price for the Kremlin's ambitions. While Belarus accelerates its military buildup under Russian pressure, the Baltic states are not waiting passively for the next crisis. They are responding with speed and determination. On the 13th of May, 2026, at the Bucharest 9 summit in Romania, Ukraine and Lithuania signed a landmark comprehensive drone production agreement. The deal covers the full spectrum: long-range strike drones, maritime attack drones, advanced interceptors, and heavy bomber drones. Lithuania will host joint production facilities with technology transfer from Ukraine's battle-tested systems already underway. Initial output is scheduled to begin in the third quarter of 2026, with a target of 1,200 drones per year from Lithuanian factories alone. Latvia and Estonia are moving equally fast. Both countries have dramatically increased cooperation with Ukraine on drone technology and air defense. Estonia has allocated an additional €87 million this year, specifically for Ukrainian-made interceptor drones and electronic warfare systems. Latvia is investing €64 million in joint drone production projects. But the Baltic response is not limited to drones. On the ground, they are building one of the most formidable defensive lines in modern Europe. Estonia has begun construction of 600 reinforced concrete shelters along its 300 kilometer border with Russia, supported by extensive dragon's teeth barriers, anti-tank ditches, and layered minefields. Lithuania and Latvia are implementing similar multi-layered fortifications, including smart sensor networks and rapid response mobile units. This is the 21st century version of the Maginot Line, but smarter, more flexible, and designed specifically to counter Russian hybrid and conventional threats. The goal is simple but critical: buy precious time for NATO reinforcements to arrive in case of any sudden escalation. These moves are a direct answer to the Russian-Belarusian pressure building on NATO's eastern flank. While Moscow tries to stretch Ukrainian forces thin in the north, the Baltic states are fortifying their own borders and integrating Ukraine's hard-won battlefield experience into their defense systems. Behind these cold military preparations lies a deeply human story. For millions of people in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, nations that still carry the scars of Soviet occupation, these defenses represent more than steel and concrete. They represent a renewed sense of security. Parents can send their children to school with slightly less fear. Families can plan their futures without the constant shadow of sudden invasion or hybrid warfare hanging over them. The Baltic states are showing the world that they have learned the lessons of history. They will not be caught unprepared again. And their message to Russia and Belarus is loud and clear. This time, the eastern flank of NATO will not be easy to break. While the Baltic states rapidly build drone fleets and concrete fortifications, Poland is emerging as the undisputed military powerhouse anchoring NATO's entire northern flank. In 2026, Poland has raised its defense spending to 5% of GDP, the highest percentage in the entire NATO alliance, surpassing even the United States. This massive investment is translating into one of the most formidable conventional forces in Europe. Poland has already ordered 980 K2 Black Panther main battle tanks from South Korea, with the first batch of 180 tanks already delivered and operational by May 2026. In addition, it is acquiring 366 M1A2 Abrams tanks from the United States. These modern heavy armor units are being deployed along the eastern border and near the critical Suwałki corridor. The air domain is also seeing dramatic upgrades. The first batch of F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters is scheduled to arrive at Wask Air Base by the end of May 2026. These fifth-generation aircraft are nuclear-capable, giving Poland and by extension NATO a powerful deterrent in Eastern Europe. Even more significant is the permanent deployment of Germany's Panzer Brigade 45 Lithuania. Starting in June 2026, this brigade, equipped with Leopard 2A, 8 tanks and Puma infantry fighting vehicles, will be stationed permanently on Lithuanian soil near the Suwałki corridor. This is the first time since the end of the Cold War that German combat troops are being permanently deployed on the eastern flank. NATO's multinational brigade in Lithuania has also been strengthened to 2,200 troops, with contributions from multiple member states. The entire northern corridor is now being turned into a heavily fortified zone designed to make any Russian or Belarusian attempt to seize the Suwałki Gap extremely costly. This is not symbolic posturing. Poland is building a real, modern fighting force capable of holding the line against a major conventional attack. By combining heavy Western armor, advanced American stealth fighters, and permanent German forward presence, Poland is creating a powerful deterrent that directly supports the Baltic states' lighter, drone-heavy defenses. The humanistic reality here is profound. These investments reflect the deep determination of nations that remember the horrors of past occupations. Polish, Lithuanian, and Latvian families who still carry the scars of Soviet rule are now investing heavily so their children never have to experience war on their soil again. Every tank, every fighter jet, and every soldier deployed is ultimately about protecting ordinary people's right to live in peace and security. The message is unmistakable. The eastern flank of NATO is no longer soft. It is hardening rapidly, and Poland is leading the way. While Poland and the Baltic states harden NATO's northern flank, an equally critical transformation is unfolding in the south along the Black Sea. Romania has faced repeated Russian provocations. Since the beginning of 2026, Russian drones have violated Romanian airspace 14 times, with the most serious incident occurring on April 28th when a Shahed drone crashed just 8 kilometers from Romanian territory. In response, Romania has dramatically accelerated defense cooperation with Ukraine. On the 14th of May, 2026, Bucharest signed a major agreement for joint production of long-range strike drones and advanced air defense systems. Romania is now set to receive its first batch of Ukrainian-made interceptors by July, aiming to protect the strategic port of Constanța and the Danube Delta. Further south, Turkey continues its delicate but highly effective balancing act. Ankara maintains active neutrality while playing a decisive role in Black Sea security. Turkey has supplied Ukraine with over 60 Bayraktar, TB2 and TB3 drones since 2022, including a new batch of 12 TB3 naval drones delivered in April 2026. Crucially, Turkey strictly enforces the Montreux Convention, effectively restricting Russian warships from freely entering or exiting the Black Sea. In the past 6 months alone, Turkey has blocked or delayed passage for 17 Russian naval vessels. Turkey's growing defense industry is also playing a central role. Its advanced electronic warfare systems, corvettes, and drone technology are helping secure key maritime routes. Joint Turkish-Ukrainian mine-clearing operations in the Black Sea have already cleared over 1,240 square kilometers of suspected minefields since January 2026. The southern flank is now just as fortified as the north. Romania acts as a strong land shield, protecting NATO's southeastern corner, while Turkey controls the strategic choke point of the Black Sea. Together, they make any major Russian naval or amphibious move in the south extremely difficult and costly. This coordinated southern defense is protecting far more than just Ukraine. It safeguards vital energy routes, including LNG terminals in Romania and critical grain export corridors. Millions of people across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East depend on the safe flow of food and energy through the Black Sea. Every drone intercepted and every mine cleared helps prevent another global food crisis or energy shock. The contrast is striking. While Russia tries to stretch NATO thin across multiple fronts, the alliance, supported by strong regional partners like Poland, Romania, and Turkey, is responding with layered, intelligent, and increasingly coordinated defenses. From the frozen forests of the Suwalki corridor in the north to the warm waters of the Black Sea in the south, NATO's eastern flank is hardening rapidly. The message to Moscow is unmistakable. Any attempt at further aggression will be met with determined, multi-layered resistance. From the forests of the Suwalki corridor to the shores of the Black Sea, a profound transformation is taking place along NATO's entire eastern flank. Putin's decision to use Belarus as a pressure point has backfired spectacularly. Instead of stretching Ukraine and dividing NATO, it has triggered Europe's largest military buildup since the end of the Cold War. The entire eastern flank, stretching from Finland in the north to Romania in the south, is hardening at an unprecedented pace. Poland is leading the charge, raising defense spending to 5% of GDP and acquiring 980 K2 Black Panther tanks and 366 Abrams. Germany is permanently stationing its Panzer Brigade 45 inches Lithuania. The Baltic states are building hundreds of concrete shelters and producing thousands of drones in partnership with Ukraine. Romania is rapidly expanding its air defense network after 14 Russian drone incursions this year. Turkey continues to control the Black Sea through the Montreux Convention while supplying advanced drones to Ukraine. The result is a unified, better prepared, and increasingly confident NATO response. What Russia hoped would be a source of division has instead become a catalyst for deeper integration and resolve. Long-term, Putin's strategy of using hybrid pressure and proxy threats is failing. Rather than weakening the Western alliance, it is strengthening it. The Baltic Sea is steadily becoming a NATO lake. The Suwalki corridor is heavily fortified. Hybrid tactics are being met with sophisticated countermeasures. Russia and Belarus now face a wall of steel, technology, and political unity that did not exist at this level just 2 years ago. This is one of the most significant, quiet revolutions in European security in decades. What began as an attempt to intimidate has accelerated Europe's military awakening and strategic cohesion. Yet behind all these defense budgets, drone factories, and tank deployments lies a deeply human story. These preparations are ultimately about ordinary people's right to live in peace and security. From Ukrainian families near the border who have endured years of shelling, to Lithuanian and Estonian citizens who still remember Soviet occupation, to Polish families determined that their children will never experience war on their soil again. This is about protecting the simple hope of a stable, free future. The eastern flank is no longer the soft underbelly of Europe. It is becoming one of the strongest defensive lines in the world. And with every new fortification, every new drone squadron, and every new alliance, the message to Moscow grows clearer. Aggression will be met with strength. Freedom will not be surrendered.